Good afternoon once again, and thank you very much for hanging on. We appreciate you. And to our participants who have joined in now, we say thank you for joining the November session of the Young Professionals Lecture Series. Today's is targeted at addressing the topic, the role of business development in the energy sector. And I hope it's good. We are ready for our presenter because it's going to be very insightful and an excellent webinar today. So I'll quickly run us through the program outline and for us to have an idea of how today's session is going to be. We'll have a couple of addresses from the SPE section, the Young Professional section, and the Student Chapter section, chapter chairs. And then I would introduce who our speaker is. I no, by now we just know the name, but then there are some in and out of the speaker that I'll throw more light on. And then from there, he'll take the stage to give us what he has planned for us today. We'll dive into question and answer sessions. And I believe by now we have materials ready to jot down some notes and then some questions that might pop up. We'll have a quick game trivia. We know SP Ghana doesn't have any long talks. We always incorporate something in to make our programs lively. And so I'll say that you stay with us even through the game trivia sessions. And then we'll have some closing remarks and we can call it a day. So here are a few things I would like us to have in mind in order to have a smooth session. We we ask that you kindly mute your microphones unless it's time for the question and answer period. If you want to share any insights, share any suggestion, you can always use the chat um, section or the comment section. You can also use your reactions, such as you raise your hands, and then you will be given the opportunity to speak. We really want to have an orderly session today, and so we plead that you bear with us and cooperate with us. At this moment, I would call on the Ghana section chair, Engineer Derek, to please give us the opening address. Please, if you are here, you can
Yes,
please have the
I'm
floor.
here.
And
Good afternoon,
participants, we
everyone.
can welcome him with a bit of reaction.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, so first of all, to the organizers, thank you very much. This is brilliant. This is the first of many to come in the course of this year and then next year. And what we are trying to achieve here is the fact that we want everyone to understand that even though we have the kind of like the standard roles in oil and gas where we are all engineers and we are all trying to be technicians or stuff like that. There are other elements of the oil and gas industry that are very key to its sustainability and very key to how it functions as a whole. So these series are there to open our eyes to the various parts of the oil and gas that actually drives the business. So as much as possible, we want a lot of the young professionals and a lot of the students to join this and learn a lot. There's going to be talks on procurement, there's going to be talks on contracts, there's going to be talks on commercial stuff, things that drive the business. And we really hope that this will be very useful to everyone that joins. Today, we have a very special guest with us who's going to take us through the business development side of it. John and I are mates, actually. We went to TED together, part of the first batch of petroleum engineers. So I know John personally. He's not just a colleague in the industry, he's a brother as well, for so many years now. He's going to deliver this side of it as excellent as you can have it. He also started off as an engineer himself. So he would try and break it down for all of us to understand that you can be an engineer, all right, but there are other parts of the business as well that would help in your career, as much as you want it to whilst you transition through it. Because one thing that you tend to learn is that after a while in the industry, especially for the young professionals who will be torn in between the decisions of where do I want to do? Do I want to actually be a full engineer throughout my career, or do I want to change along the line and things like that? all these lecture series are there to open your mind up or your understanding to how all these function and all these come into play. And then we hope that this would be very educative for you all. And as we get on, we would answer any questions that you have along the line, and I will try and help develop ourselves in that space and field as well. So welcome on board for this first in a series of a lot of them to come, and then all the best. And then we hope that you get as much out of it as you can. Okay. So I'll hand it over to you now, Priscilla. You can take over from here.
Okay, thank you very much, Section Chair. We appreciate your opening address. And I personally believe it's going to be an exciting year, looking at where we are even beginning from. So I have my seatbelt on ready for the ride, and I believe my participants also are ready. We can appreciate our section chair by showing some reactions. And at this juncture, I would call on the YP section, the YP chair to also give us some address.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for making the time to join this call. I'm Adina Yebwa, and I was in another meeting, but thankfully I can be able to take the opening address from the YP angle. So the purpose of this lecture series is for us to learn, not only learn the technical parts of our industry, but the non-technical aspects of our industry. Personally, we have exciting topics already in the pipeline, and with experienced professionals coming to share their input on these topics. Personally, I'm ready to learn, and I want everyone on this call to also have an open mind to learn, to ask questions, and benefit from this initiative. Thank you all once again for making the time to join this call.
Thank you very much, YP Chair, and we appreciate the fact that you took upon this role and working together with your committee members to bring us valuable programs and events. We appreciate that a lot. I'll move on to Mr. Philip Banini to also give us an address from the students section. Mr. Philip, if you're available, please, you can have the floor.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can I be heard?
Yes, please, loud and
All
clear.
right, all right. Priscilla, thank you so much. Much has been said by the session chair and the YP chair. I just want to add that let's pay attention to these very topics. They are the ones we don't get to hear in our classrooms, in our lecture halls. So from the student perspective, let's pay attention. Let's ask critical questions. The face of the industry is changing gradually, and then we need these innovative topics and steady lectures to update us. Let's keep this going, and thank you all for coming. Priscilla, please over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, that is right. We normally do not hear these topics from the classroom, but they are some of the topics we really need to make life decisions. And so I hope my students are ready to take your advice and then to also get some insight from the presenter. At this moment, I know we are all ready to have what the presenter has specially made for us today. And so I wouldn't waste much time, but I'll go on with a brief introduction, and the next voice you will hear after the introduction will be our esteemed speaker. John Clement Watson is an experienced energy professional with over 16 years of experience within the upstream and downstream oil and gas sector. He is currently the Senior Sales Operations Manager for the Saharan Africa Subsea Services business for Baker Hughes. He is responsible for business development and sales operations with his jurisdiction covering all of the sub-Saharan African countries, excluding Angola and Nigeria. John has a Bachelor of Science degree in Petroleum Engineering and he graduated with first class honors from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and a Master of Science degree in Natural Gas Technology from Norges and Academy for the Investing. So I'll go with the shortcut NTNU in Norway with various certifications in financial management and sales. John Swatson has held various roles within the downstream business in Ghana, notably Cyrus Oil Services Limited. He started his career in the Ghana upstream sector within Baker Hughes as a field engineer in the lead program running subsurface completions, with applications covering sand control, case hole and tubing, conveyed perforations, both on and offshore. His career in Baker Hughes has seen him progress quickly, taking on a myriad of regional positions, including but not limited to technical support engineer, applications engineer for all services lines within the completions and wellbore intervention group in Ghana and South Africa. In 2015, he took on a role as a sales manager for CWI for the East South West Africa region, based out of London, UK. This role was to manage relationships between Baker Hughes and key customers with respect to complex and strategic projects at the regional level. Following that, John took on the role of strategic business development manager, looking after remote regions equally based out of London. But there's one interesting fact about our presenter, and that is, did you know he was the best graduating student in the first batch of petroleum engineers produced by the Department of Petroleum Engineering in KNUST? And because of that, a dedicated award has has been in honor of his name, and the award is the John Swartzen Excellence Award that aims to annually recognize the best male students in each year group at the Department of Petroleum Engineering in KMSC. So we really have an esteemed speaker today who has a wealth of experiences, and I'm sure we are not going to let time slip by without taking any insights from today's presentation. So please give the speaker your optimum attention. Let's mute our microphones as we've already begun doing to keep this session smoothly running. And I'm sure we are going to have a great lecture today. So, Mr. John Swatson, your audience are ready. And our audience, let's welcome our speaker today.
Awesome. No, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Really appreciate the introduction, Priscilla. So good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can see me, you can hear me. Can somebody signal me if you can?
Yes, please, we can see, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. So to the section chair, the YP chair, the YP program representatives, to yourself, Priscilla, the moderator, I think you're doing an excellent job. And then to my fellow young professionals who are on this call, again, good afternoon. So I was given the opportunity to present to you. I think it's a very special topic. And we never had the opportunity, I think at the time, myself and the section chair, who's also my dear brother and classmate, as he had mentioned, some of these opportunities to learn from professionals, Ghanaian professionals. So I think it's a very good opportunity that you have, and one that I also don't take lightly. So whilst we go through this, please feel free to ask any questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. What we cannot answer, we will definitely get you an answer. And we hope that you can take something very good out of the session. Okay. So in terms of a brief, The topic I was going to take today is on the role of business development, and I'll be terming it as BD. Whilst we're going through the presentation in the energy sector. It says in the energy sector, but it's more so going to be focused on the upstream side of the business. Okay. So just a brief of myself. I am, and I think Priscilla has done a good job of kind of highlighting that. And I also wanted to highlight it again for the benefit of those who are on this presentation, so that you understand the trajectory of what could potentially happen in your careers and the shifts that could also happen. And I must say, some of these shifts were not voluntary. Some of these shifts I was forced into it, and others as well I took on and accepted. But what we need to understand is that there are career changes, and one thing that is only certain in life is change, right? Okay. So as Priscilla had mentioned or highlighted in the opening, so I started out as a field engineer, specifically with my role in Baker Hughes. Went through the kind of the training program, which was at the time termed as the lead program. And you had to fulfill certain competencies and skill sets. And this is typical of most service companies. Then I moved on to a technical support applications engineer role. I was typically based out of South Africa and then Ghana, at some point looking out for tallow and other projects within the region. Then I took on a role briefly, I've kind of shortened a few, 4 years or so, took on a role as sales manager for completions and wellbore intervention. And this is an interesting one because at the time when I was offered this role, right, prior to that, I took an understudy role with a sales manager for Africa at the time, for Sub-Saharan Africa at the time, sitting in Cape Town. But I was an applications engineer, but playing a dual role, a sales and applications engineer, reported to him. So a few years after that, shortly, I was made the sales manager for completions and wellbore intervention for East and Southwest Africa. And it was a strategic role to kind of look at specific projects that were being executed in the region, but they normally had their headquarters within Europe or within London per se. So at the time, we had Tullow looking after Kenya, Ghana. Tullow was based in Chiswick in the UK. You had ENI. At the time, you had the HQ that was based in the UK as well. At the time, they were looking at executing the Coral project in Mozambique. Also, you had Ophir that was looking at EG for the Fortuna project some years back. So it was a key decision that the company had made to kind of position myself there. I say this because it would bring a lot of light to the presentation that we're about to have. So fast forward to that, I'm currently the Senior Sales Operations Manager for the Subsea Services business for Baker Hughes. In between Baker Hughes working in the legacy Baker Hughes, as we call it, the subsurface part of the business, and then moving into the subsea part of the business, I actually took a break and went to do my master's in Norway. And this was mostly looking at natural gas technology. So a lot of gas processing, field development, field design is what I went to study for my master's. And I came back and joined as a senior sales operations manager. So for the subsea services business, looking after the whole of Sub-Saharan Africa, except Nigeria and Angola, because those are huge markets on their own. So at the moment, I cover Ghana, I cover Cote d'Ivoire, Equatorial Guinea, Namibia. These are the countries that keep me busy. And then you have pockets of work in Guinea-Bissau and other locations that come in and out. But I sit in Accra. Okay, so that's currently what I do. Okay, I'm an alumni of Tech, and also NTNU in Norway. Okay, so let me just do a quick editing moment. I won't take too much time, but I think it's important we start off with that. For you as students, I'm sure you spend a lot of your time behind your desk, as I do. It's very important that you set up a workspace to fit the way you work, to fit the activity you're doing. And you can do this with DIY items, right? You can post it up with setting up some of your textbooks to prop it up a bit. But it's very important to remember that the top of your screen be approximately at the same height as your eye level. Okay. Your work surface height slightly lower than the relaxed elbow position. Okay, support your back, which is very important. If you're as old as I am, you'll realize that when you start to get the back pain, you wake up and you hear your joints start to creak. So it's very important that whilst you're sitting down, you take care of yourself, right? It's very important because we spend an immense amount of hours behind our laptops in this day and age. And for some of us now, behind our phones. So, and you can imagine you're consistently looking at your phone and you're going like this. So you have a lot of pressure on your neck. So ergonomics is a very important thing. Be mindful of that. Okay. Best thing, take breaks. Another thing that you can do is to do the 20-20 rule. 20 minutes, look away from your monitor every 20 minutes for 20 seconds at something at least 20 feet away. That would help you and prevent you from wearing eyeglasses like I am doing right now. Okay, there is a poll, and I don't know if Priscilla can help me out if this is something that the team is, the YPs who are on the call are answering. Can you let me know if there's something that is up?
And some of us are allowed
So
to
I
answer
believe
this.
it's launched now, so we can.
So I'm guessing if you see the poll, if you can answer the poll or the questions there, and Priscilla, if you can help me understand how the answers are going on that poll.
Okay. Okay, all right.
And then we can move on. Let's give the technical team a couple of minutes.
Okay, I see a couple of people answering the poll, so I would want to give a couple of minutes to see.
Okay.
And we could take the answers. Yes. So to give a rundown before we end the poll, for question one, the percentage of business partnership sales. I see 50% and 70% are par. So, and we have 13% for the 20%.
Okay, how many people answered 50%?
Currently, we have 19 people have participated so far, and we have 7 for 50%, 8
Okay.
now, and 8 for 70%. Yeah, so 8 for 50, 8 for 70. Okay, and then
Okay.
for question two, I think the 5 billion is in the lead now with 7 participants, and closely followed by the 24 billion with 5 votes so far.
So how many selected 5 billion? You said 7?
Yes. And for 24 billion, we have 6 now.
6 people. Okay.
Okay. And for the third question, building relationship has 8 people, and strategic thinking has 6. But interestingly, product development has none. So none of the votes now.
Nobody wants to go into product development or has any interest in product
Yes,
development. Interesting.
I believe so.
How many selected the technical prowess or operations?
3 for now. 3 for now.
Okay.
So we have 24 participants now. So if you want us to wait more before ending the poll, I can.
Okay. So whilst we go in, I think we'll go back and revisit it. So let's get down to the brass tacks of it. And Priscilla, my sidekick, will help me out here on the questions.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why we're looking at it. So just off the back of it, how do we start off? What is a business development manager? What is business development, or who's a business development manager? It's a very undefined territory, right? When you talk about business development, there is no hard and fast way of getting things done. However, there are certain skill sets that you need to kind of acquire to make it happen. A business development manager is basically a deal maker, right? You are able to perceive opportunities and then make those deals happen. It's an extremely important role that ensures the growth of any business. So wherever you find yourself, with a service company, a bank, whichever sector, whichever field, you will typically have the business development role. Now, currently, I need to put a bit of a disclaimer. At the moment, I work as sales operations. It's slightly different from business development. I have been a business development manager, but in certain sectors, there is a very gray area between who a sales manager is and who a business development manager is, or who is into business development and who's into sales. And the slides that go on will kind of explain this a bit more. The idea is in business development, you're always looking for a win-win approach. You are basically looking out for your customer. You are mostly customer facing, and the idea is to ensure that whatever solutions, whatever you're coming up with, is a win-win approach between yourself and the customer. Normally, when it's one-sided, it skews the relationship, and you may win on one time, but further on, you may have challenges here and there. So it's the process of just thinking outside the box, creating and building different sort of strategic opportunities and partnerships. It's mainly around building relationships. That is what a business development role is about. That is what it typically entails. And in order to be successful, you have to be able to have those relationships done. You have to be able to see opportunities where there aren't, and you have to be able to implement them. And that's what makes it really fun, right? You don't know what you're going to get. You walk into a meeting, most of the time, you don't know what you're going to get answered or what questions you're going to be asked. But the idea is to just look for synergies where you're taking what your company stands for, the solutions that you're offering, and marrying it with what the customer is looking for, right? And that's the idea, okay? What's the purpose of business development? You need to identify new partnerships. You need to cultivate relationships, and it's the bread and butter of our business. It's an everyday thing. You live it, you breathe it, right? The main part of the job is you have to identify opportunities and long-term possibilities. Typically, in smaller companies, you have the company owner or the CEO doing this kind of work because they own the business. And when they're small, the growth trajectory, they're just starting out and they're trying to build on that. And as the business grows, typically what would happen is that you would have departments or specific roles assigned to that. Okay. Now, the question is, why do you even need business development? I'm sure there are engineers here and they're thinking, why don't I just go do business and be a business development guy? Okay, we'll explain a bit more further into the slides. The everyday business, for example, yourself, if you're an engineering role, you are maybe a gas process engineer, you just got hired, you are concentrating and focusing on today's business. And that means the business of your current contract or what you're executing. That's what you focus on. That's what you're looking at. That's what you're doing. You have your daily tasks. You have your daily routines that are set out for you. Business development is a bit more abstract. You are actually thinking about the business tomorrow, not today. So you do not see where you're going tomorrow as a business, but you have to think about it because that assures you of today's business. We need to be able to go out there and win work. We need to be able to go out there and get new contracts. We need to be able to go out there and build on what is new. I'll give you a typical example. This week, there's news that Google right now has some anti-competition laws against it from the US Department of Justice. Okay, now what you're saying is Google needs to be able to take off its Chrome search engines from Microsoft, whatnot, just because there is no competition. Okay, now what does that mean for a business like Google that has been mostly the main search engine, and you can understand the amount of business that is flowing through a company like Google? So something like this, what's going to happen? It's going to hit your top line, it's going to hit your revenues. How is your business going to be transformed by that alone, right? You need to think about new things. So this is sometimes the reason why there is planning, there's this business development in organizations such as this. And whilst we go on, I'll relate it more to oil and gas. Okay. So business development is the tool that the organization needs to test out any of these objectives or ideas that they have in mind for the future. Currently, you've done oil and gas. People are telling you, oh, oil and gas is dirty. We need to do renewables. We need to look at green hydrogen. We need to look here and there. Now, if you're an organization that is currently into oil and gas, pure oil and gas, and you are not looking into what the future holds or how that impacts your business, whether it's renewables, whether it's green hydrogen, then certainly you may not be doing the right things. Because you need to understand that in 5 years from now, not even 5 years from now, even less, what is going to be happening? There are going to be less cars on the road. There are going to be more EV vehicles. What does that do to your business? So it's very important that whilst we are executing and thinking of today, we are being able to plan for tomorrow. And it's all about looking for new ways to broaden the options for the organization. That is what business development is about. Okay. Now, every now and again, we tend to mix up the functions. Okay, what's the difference between sales and business development? What's the difference between marketing? And then we also have those who are into strategic planning. Okay, sales is a bit more constant. So you have specific contracts, you have specific ways you need to operate, you have specific products and services. It's fixed. It's already there. It's already in existence. However, with business development, it is much broader. You are looking at what to bring in beyond what you already have. What is the more? What is out there that you need to kind of include? So you're always thinking about, okay, what is new? What can be brought in? What different solutions? How can I innovate, right? How can I evolve? What can I do to bring in more, right? So that is the difference between one who is into sales as a function and then business development. In certain organizations, they kind of marry the two. But if you're looking at it purely from a definition standpoint, is what you're looking at. Marketing versus business development, right? Now, it's more strategic or future focused, right? Marketing, you're looking at, okay, what is the market? When you say what is the market, what is out there? What is the space? What's your competition? What are the solutions that are being offered? And the idea of the marketing function is to understand the markets that they operate in, pick that different info, pull that into the business, and then take that out again into the market in the sense that you are ingesting what you're getting, and then you're bringing out, spitting out what your image should be, what you should be communicating, what is your company purpose, what is your corporate message. So that is what marketing is. Business development goes beyond that messaging or gathering of info. It's a unique business arrangement that you're trying to put in place with a customer, organization, whoever, to churn out new business. That is the idea of business development. The way you look at strategic planning as a function, it's more so a kind of an abstract way. So they are sitting back and, like I gave you the Google example, okay, the change is going to happen. What are we looking at from 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now as a company? What do we need to do and how do we put that into context, into a dollar figure, right? And these are some of the things that you need to think about because you do not know where you're going to go 5, 10 years, 15 years from now. It is important that companies actually do that, have those long-term plans, medium-term and short-term objectives. Because every year, what would happen is that, and it happens in every company, it happens in my company, in Baker Hughes, we will do our long-term plans. And then every now and again, we will look at it and then review those long-term plans and see if we're on track or if we need to redirect. But in the end, that strategic planning will first need to be abstract. And then you need to put some kind of a financial plan behind it. Because without a roadmap, you will never achieve where you want to get to, right? So strategic planning more so depends and looks closely at the financial aspects of what you're doing, right, on those plans. But the business development aspect is the boots on the ground to make those plans a reality and put that into effect based on what you know today. Okay. Okay, now I put together this presentation in a very open fashion. So please feel free. I don't know how you want to do this, Priscilla, if you want questions at the end or questions whilst we are speaking, but please feel free to ask any questions that you may, or if there's anything, Priscilla, you can decide how we do it.
Okay, we have the question and answers after the presentation, so we can note them down. Then
Okay.
once it's time, we'll just bring everything up here.
Okay, that's good. So I put this together in a very informal or informal structure, right? Not any straight-laced. It's not the business development 101 course, no. It's more so based on, okay, as a young professional, what would you be doing if you decide to go into business development, what it entails, what you need to look out for, and what you actually have to prepare yourself for whilst you're a student or a young professional. Okay, what are some of the responsibilities? So you'd have to look at strategic planning, and I mentioned that already. What are you looking at in terms of your long-term opportunities? Okay, are you looking at that in a different fashion where you're having to think about 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line? What does it involve? What are you going to be putting in place now to secure your future for tomorrow? So there's a lot of planning and forecasting around business development. So at the moment today, I have, if I'm asked, where's the business going? I have an idea of where we should be from now. We're in 2024, right? Where we need to be in 2030 and what plans there are, what plans we should be putting in place to ensure that we arrive at a certain point in 2030 so that the business still thrives. Okay, and that's why you have a lot of the businesses today that are 100 years plus, they've been in the business. You have the likes of Baker Hughes, the likes of, and I'm talking about the service companies, the likes of Albert, Schlumberger, NOV, and the others, right, who have been in the business long because we've had to evolve. And it's due to things like strategic planning that is the wheels of the business, okay? Another responsibilities around business and revenue growth, okay? We're consistently looking at how we're going to grow the business. Money is not a bad thing. For some reason, people feel like the more money you make, you are greedy. No, let's change the mindset. Money gives you the opportunity to do other things. Money gives you the opportunity to grow. It gives the opportunity to expand. It gives you the opportunity to hire more people. It gives the opportunity for people to have more jobs. It gives you the opportunity to what? To fund research, which would make things better, which would make our lives better. So what we tend to do is to set business targets for ourselves and look at revenue growth. That is what that's one of the responsibilities of BD. Relationship management. This is very important. Both internal and external. And I'll dive more into it or delve more into it in the next slide around who your internal stakeholders are and who your external stakeholders are. I spoke about forecasted short, medium, long term, and having to think about, okay, how do you address or be nimble enough in terms of your short-term goals to be able to achieve the business targets that you have in mind. So let me bring this down to the level that we can all appreciate. If you're an engineer at the moment, or if you're a student, right? And some students are there. When I was a student, you try and have your own small businesses here and there to make some cash or something. If you're an engineer, you're there, you're taking your salary every month, you get paid. You maybe want to do, you want to go into Uber, or you want to have a small buy and sell business. In the end, you need to think about, okay, I am selling today maybe your phones, or you're selling talk time, or um, whatever it is, or you're doing a Momo business, but you're realizing that your sales are going down. However, your cost is X, and your sales that you're making revenue is not meeting your costs. So you have a deficit. So you have to think about different ways. Things change all the time along the plan. So if in your short term, your cost exceeds your revenue, then you need to think about the very short term, what I can do to change the situation. And then in the long term, what I can do to sustain that reversal, okay, where you are no more in a deficit but in a surplus. So you're always looking at what the next objective is. What do you need to do to make sure that the business remains or continues to be sustainable? Okay. What are some of the tools that you'd use in your everyday business? We call them CRM tools, customer relationship management. That's what CRM stands for. So there are a lot of tools that we use. For example, at the moment, I use what you call Salesforce. Okay, so Salesforce is a very good tool that you use to actually manage, because in these days, you cannot do everything by paper and pen. At the moment, I have in the region of 100 or so customers across different locations. And I would not be able to manage that from the top of my head or from a notebook. So you have these tools to help you manage your relationship. You would log in all your visits. You will log in all your opportunities. And this is also seen by the business. It's linked to the business. Everything that you do will be in terms of deals. You would have different contacts with different kinds of people. And the people that you'd be interacting with, and on the next slide, you probably see that will be people from the executive level, up to executive level, down to technical, procurement, contract, and different functions thereof. And it's very important that that relationship management is done in a structured fashion. You follow it, you log it, because that can break your deal. And that is why we put in the poll. And in answer to the poll for the first question, where we asked how many business deals are broken or do not work out, the answer is 70%. 70% of business relationships fail. When I say business relationships, we're talking about relationships with the customer, internal, external, anything. So 70% of them. So if we put that into deals, if we put that into the business context, 70% of business deals fail. And that's a staggering figure if the intent is to keep your business alive. So it's a very crucial tool. It's very critical that you have a business development arm that enables the business to thrive. It's very key. Okay. What other tools and resources do we need? Marketing news, right? You'd have to read up a lot. So at the moment, I'm here, I've heard about Google. This was this morning. You read about what's happening in Nigeria. I don't know if anybody's aware of what's happening in Nigeria at the moment. You have a lot of the onshore acreage being taken over by local companies, right? You have ENI being bought over in this onshore acreage by Wando. You have Shell for Seplat. You have everything to add to a chaplain for one of the Mauritanian companies that's taking up some of the assets there. So there's a shift in the dynamics in the industry. And it's good that you understand how all this is brought into context and how it affects your business. Okay. Agreements, you need to understand contracts. I'm not a lawyer. I do not have a law degree, but I can sit and have a very confident conversation with the legal team in contracts. You're talking about liabilities, you're talking about warranties, you're talking about risk, right? You're talking about intellectual property, confidentiality agreements, off-takers. You should be in a position to understand what that means and how it affects your business. Okay. So in essence, you have to be very well read. Communication. You would be engaging with executives, CEOs, MDs, finance managers, technical managers, operations managers, engagement at different levels, whether be it your customer or internally in your company. Okay. And then product development, and I'll touch on it on later slides. Product development in the sense that we are looking at different products and how it affects us. Okay. Because you're bringing something new into the market. How do you ensure that you are getting, the customer is getting the value out of the solution or the product that you've been able to develop? Okay. Good. Now, this is more of a question to everybody. You can type it out in the chat or just something to think about. With what I've spoken about in terms of who a business development manager is and what is business development, do you think you have the skill sets or traits? And what kind of skill sets or traits do you need to have? Do you need to be an extrovert? You can put it in the chat and Priscilla will see it. Do you need to like people? Do you need to be a technical expert? Okay. So you can answer that in the chat. The other thing is that the traits, to go down to the traits of one who wants to be a business developer, who wants to go into business development, one thing is you must be naturally curious. Okay. You must not be afraid to walk into the unknown, because the whole idea of this role is you are trying to unearth the possibilities and the opportunities out there. It involves an extreme amount of homework. You need to study outside the box. You are going to be in conferences to meet different people, from technical to procurement to lawyers to supply chain, everybody, engineers, finance, and not everybody understands the entire business value chain. Okay. The skill sets of business development people they're mostly extroverts, but they are not all extroverts. So if you're currently thinking, I must be a very outgoing person, I must be good, not necessarily. But there's going to be a lot of sharing and a lot of communication, which flows both ways. So it's important that you keep that in the top of your mind if it's something that you want to get into. So you build your communication skills, okay? And you don't actually have to be born with the communication skills. It's something that you can actually learn. So if you want to get into this field, if you want to get into being a business development, which opens, I must say, a lot of opportunities, it's essential that you understand you will be sharing, you will be interacting with other people, you would be in a lot of meetings, you will be on calls a lot, because you're a natural bridge builder. You are just connecting and bringing people with different facets and different functions. And always, it's more about negotiation. It's a win-win thing, right? If I win, you win. If you win, I win. And that's what sustains the relationship. Priscilla, were you able to get any answers to if you need to be an extrovert, you need to like people?
Not really.
Okay, let's go on.
Okay.
Let's go on. So stakeholder engagements, what needs to happen? So internally, as much as I've spoken about dealing with customers and having conversations with them, you are going to have internal stakeholder engagements. So if you have a deal in which you believe it's something that you can sell, you can bring out to the business and improve for the future of the company, you have to be able to flesh it up. You have to be in a position to articulate that deal or articulate the solution that you have in mind. And normally that would go up to the executive level, because you need to get their buy-in, okay? You need to work with commercial operations, right? I have a commercial operations person who helps me in all my deals when it comes to the countries that I work in. And she's my right hand. I don't go anywhere without her, because she is there to help put and assess the commercial risk. What does that mean? And we'll go into it a bit later. Legal, you're going to have to talk with your lawyers. You need to be able to understand contracts, you need to understand agreements, okay? And I'll explain a bit more further down. Finance will say, okay, what are my payment terms? Do I need to pay in 60 days, 45 days? What can we accept as a business? Someone will say, oh, I want to pay you in 120 days. 120 days means what? 4 months. So I do the work today, I get paid in 4 months. But meanwhile, Priscilla wants to get paid every month. So if Priscilla wants to get paid every month and I'm only getting paid in 4 months, can my business accept it? So it's very important that finance takes a look at it and see if there's something that they can do. Secondly, and I spoke about CRM, customer relationship management tools. Let's talk about Salesforce. Before you even start to deal with a customer, you should be in a position to understand if it's a customer who can pay, right? If it's a customer who can pay. So it's important that we do what you call know your customer. You need to go into their credit history. Have they paid you before? Have they not? These are all things that we discussed and we talk about. Have they had issues with payments? Are they blacklisted? Because really and truly, there are some customers that we do not want to do any work with them, or you would not want to do any work with them because you do the work and you never get paid. Okay. Trade compliance. I'm having to deal, there was a deal that we just completed, and it was a deal where one of the partners had a Russian, so I see somebody's hand up.
Yes, I have a few messages of feedback, and I wanted to. So, Marvin says you should have excellent communication skills and excellent negotiation skills. And from Derek, that's the question. So he said you definitely have to get for it. And for an extrovert, but
Okay, Priscilla, I was really struggling to hear you there, but I got that it's good to have excellent communication skills, which is good. That's correct. You do not have to be an extrovert, but you just have to be able to learn to communicate. Okay. That's good. Thank you very much, Priscilla. Then you're going to have to deal with account managers. So we have account managers in the sense that, okay, if you're working for a company such as Accra Brewery, right? You may have certain bars or restaurants, maybe certain hotel chains that you'll be dealing with. You have a specific account manager to manage them. If you want to have any sort of new business, you need to be able to have a relationship with the account manager, right? To understand what the ins and outs of that specific account or customer. Operations. Please note that when you're into business development, you have not forsaken your technical understanding. And I will explain that a bit more. You need to be able to understand the technicalities, you need to be able to understand technology, the solutions, to be able to even offer something new. So if you are not technically sound, or if you don't do your research, you cannot even begin. So you do not leave your technical understanding behind at all. Okay. So external, who are you dealing with? I've mentioned the executive team. You're dealing with the operations team. So Derek, with well operations, you are talking to them, you're understanding what their needs are. They want to be able to do things cheaper, quicker, and safer. These are the three, not in the same order. Normally safety first, okay? They want to be able to do things safely, cheaper, quicker, right? What are the solutions that you're bringing to them that is new, that is novel, that can let them achieve this? When they win, you win, okay? You're going to be dealing with a subsea production team, and that's the team I normally deal with. And they have the same sort of ideas and needs. Also, contracts and procurement, I mentioned that you're dealing with the legal people. Then the regulatory bodies, right? So the likes of Petroleum Commission and the others, because you must still do your work within the bounds of the regulations, okay? You must still do this within the bounds of the regulations. Also with government, you need to understand what the laws are in the country. You need to understand that whatever you're bringing into play, there is full buy-in from the government. You are following the local laws. You're engaging with them to give them the needed updates on what you're doing. There was one part that I needed to highlight that I don't think I touched on when Priscilla came, was around trade compliance. So typical example, we're doing drilling in a different country, and at the moment, the customer who is doing that work has an affiliation to another country that has trade bans, on them, right? So the United States has trade bans. We obviously are a US-based company, and we are not necessarily allowed to do business with certain parties. So you need to be able to understand what that means. These are the intricacies of business that if you go ahead and you deal with such a customer, you're going to have the authorities, the US authorities and everybody else on the business, and would most likely be fined. So you need to understand what a trade compliance rules are of working in certain locations with certain individuals and in certain organizations. And for example, we had this ban. We went back, we had a conversation with trade compliance if we were allowed, and we had to put in certain certain terms and conditions to ensure that we could actually do the work within a certain bounds, but compliantly. We could do work with them in a certain field, but not in a certain field, because at the time the ban had started, it was a bit later on. It was supposed to have been in 2019. So everything from after 2019, any of the equities or licenses after 2019, the ban would have taken effect. But prior to that, it wouldn't have. So we're able to go ahead and do work. So these are the things I need to be able to understand with your trade compliance teams before you can even go ahead. Okay. All right. So what are some of the business development activities? So I mentioned with your ComOps team, you'll be doing product evaluation. Okay, how much does it cost for an engineer to go offshore? How much does it cost for me to have a tech support engineer work on a certain project? How many hours is he going to be on it? What is his cost? How much do I have to pay Priscilla every day for the month? If I'm going to hire Priscilla, Adam, and other people, if I have to hire 10 engineers on my plant, how much am I going to have to pay them every month, and how much am I getting the customer to pay? So you need to be able to understand product evaluation, economics, and pricing. The market, competition, what is the competition doing? Because in everything that you do, somebody's also potentially doing the same. You want to be in a position where you are ahead of the curve rather than behind, ahead of the game, because it's a competitive landscape, right? The business that you are doing today was not won easily, right? You had competition also vying for the same business. It's one pot, but everybody's fighting for that same pot, okay? You need to be able to understand project risk. So project risk is a very big topic, okay? Now I mentioned to you, if your customer wants you to pay, and he wants to pay you in 120 days, finance will say, okay, if you want to do that, I don't want him to pay 120 days. He should pay me in 60 days. Okay. Customer will say, okay, I'll pay you in 60 days. Or he can say, look, I will pay you in 120 days, but for my initial payment, I'll give you upfront payment. I'll give an upfront payment to offset that risk. And then later, at a later stage, from the next year, I can give it to you in 120 days. So you can weigh your risk and say, okay, if I'm receiving upfront payment, money now rather than later, it helps me to run my business. It helps me to pay my people until at a later stage, okay? Industry, local, and international regulation. So at the moment, for those who do not know, for the Petroleum Commission and the government, there are certain laws and regulations we have to abide by. You have your taxes, you have your income tax, you have VAT, NHIL, all of these taxes are there. You have to be able to pay them. Withholding tax. All this should be priced and understood within your business landscape, what it means to be able to do that. Liability, warranties. So what are liabilities and warranties? Warranties, so if I give you a product and I say, okay, I'm giving you a packer today. If you buy the packer from me, the customer will tell you, look, I want a lifetime warranty on the packer. But in essence, I'm giving you a packer, which you would run down whole, but the operations, what is actually happening, you're producing from it, and I don't have any sort of visibility on how you're producing from that. So then the service company or other companies will say, okay, I cannot give you a lifetime warranty on that. I can give you a reliability analysis saying that I have tested it to a certain extent, to a certain degree such that I can give you understanding that in certain conditions, it will last you a number of years. So that's what you buy into. However, on the warranty, we'll say, okay, 12-month warranty, if anything should happen with this that I've sold to you, if anything, I will try and repair it or give you a new one. So those are the things that go into contracts. You need to be able to understand and speak to them. Taxes, what are your local taxes? What are you paying for withholding tax? What are you paying for income tax? What's the cost of doing business in a certain country? Okay, I spoke about the trade and embargoes and antitrust laws already. I gave you the example of Russia. Communications, very important. These are the activities that we need to do. Then you're basically taking the idea of what you have and executing it and creating a solution out of it. The other thing that is extremely important is conflict resolution. There are bound to be fights, be it internally or externally. So I classify myself as the pacifist. I'm either fighting with legal and then heal the wounds, or I go to operations, have the conversation with them at technical, and you have to be able to marry the two. Okay, between the customer and operations, us operations, there are fights between the functions internally and externally. So you need to be able to maneuver these communications and relations around resolving conflicts. Because guess what? If you go to a customer and he says to you, I'm going to pay you 100,000, and you say no, but the value of what I'm giving to you is 500,000. Why are you going to pay me 100,000? It's a conflict. There's bound to be some kind of a conflict there. Now, how do you go and make sure that they are paying you what you need to? So it takes a bit of negotiation and understanding and having that work with the customer. So you're consistently trying to resolve conflicts. Okay. And then you're talking about business management. Okay, so let me change the pace a bit and give you a little bit of an example. One critical aspect of business development is, like I mentioned, innovation, technological advancement. What you see there, for those who can recognize it on the left, is what you call a bridge plug or a cement retainer. So normally you'd run this in whole with a wire line, E-line, whichever kind of deployment method you have. What you see there is a wire line adapter kit, the item in red. So that part that looks like a thread is screwed onto the top. You run it via wire line, you take tension, you pull, it breaks a stud, you set it. Okay. I remember when I was kind of starting out in Baker Hughes, we used to run this a lot. And I met a quality control engineer specialist who came in, expert. He was quite old. It was a seasoned chap. I remember one man saying, this guy is 70 years old, very learned. It's like, no. He met him 10 years ago in China and he was still 70. So he can't be 70. But in the long run of it, he was able to come down. Long and short is, he brought us all together, some of us are young engineers, and explained the history of the wireline adapter kit. And when he started to screw this thing on. And he said, this wireline adapter kit was invented or started as far back as the 50s. So when he said this, I was like, what? In the 1950s thereabouts, this is what we were using, and we are still using it today? So in my mind, I said, wow, why is this not obsolete? But the thing is that it works. And it's because of systems like this, it's because of business development and looking at new ways of doing things. Now, this tool has moved, or these deployment methods have moved from being just mechanical. Now you can run things in hydraulic mode, pressure up, pressure down, release, and that's it. You don't need to run it on wire. So you're saving time. Now there are even HPHT applications, so high pressure, high temperature applications. You're talking about 400 degrees F, you're talking about very high pressures. In geothermal, they've improved the elastomers of this to be able to withstand the high temperature, high pressures. So what you see in black in the middle there, for those who don't know, are the elastomers. And then now you're even talking about all electric. So you run it in whole, you press a button or do whatnot, and then boom, it sets. So there are so many different evolutions of technology, and most of it is due to business development activities like this. Because when you have the ideas, you take it back to your product managers, They put this into context on paper, and then they develop it. If it's meeting that customer need, you are taking something that was abstract, making sure that it's happened, putting cost to it, research, and making sure that it's a solution. Another one I want to highlight about business is about innovation. It's about innovation. What you see on the right is a solution in Baker Hughes. So you can see I'm a business development guy. Any opportunity to sell, I'll sell, even to young professionals. So what you see over there is called Terminator. Yes, we call it Terminator. There's actually a solution called Terminator. Now, what it does is typically when you are decommissioning or you're abandoning your wells, for those who are petroleum engineers, you would need to go and cut casing. And if you're bringing in a rig these days, you're paying in excess of $500,000 per day. However, this solution here allows you to bring in a much cheaper option, which is a vessel, which will cost you much less, in the region of 100,000 or less, so a fifth of the price. And you're able to have, if it has ROV capabilities, you connect an ROV, you're able to run this tool in the ground. And if you can see, there's a slide index, that's a cutter. And this cutter would basically help you to cut your casing. So rather than bringing a rig where you'd have to be paying in excess of $500,000, $700,000 a day with all the bells and whistles and people and all the safety risks, you can bring in a vessel and do this at cheaper, the same amount of time, but at a fifth or less or a tenth of the cost. So you've been able to marry different options there. You've been able to marry fishing, ROV operations, understand subsea interfaces, right? Because what you have here is actually an H4 kind of connection to the wellhead. And then to understand the vessel operations. So you've been able to innovate an idea, and currently we're actually giving this as a solution to the customer. Okay. So these are some of the new opportunities that are coming, and we're seeing a lot of customers that are doing abandonment work take up our Terminator solution. Okay, and I think this is my last slide. Challenges. What challenges do you face as business development? Regulatory uncertainty and policy changes. Things change all the time. Nothing is ever certain. For example, for those who were using the big yams back then, right now we moved from, we used to call it 1G. Right now we're on what, 5G. Things have changed. Things always evolve. Your phones these days, if you're talking about low-level phones, you're not able to do so many applications. It's a problem. So at the moment, right now, in Ghana, at some point, 5G was just earmarked for local companies, and that was opened up, and that destroyed some companies. So regulatory uncertainty and policy changes has an adverse effect. In some locations as well, not in Ghana per se, taxes have been increased drastically on drilling operations. Guess what? Companies are pulling out. So they're always different, something different with regards to regulatory policy that can change the business, and we have to be on top of it. So again, you're thinking about it tomorrow, not today's business. Force majeure. For those who remember COVID, right? Everybody here remembers COVID. What was happening? Basically, the operators were saying, look, what do we need to do? We need to put personnel in quarantine for 14 days to make sure that there is no COVID outbreak on the rig. So what happened? Some companies were even saying, listen, we don't have money. We cannot sustain that kind of cost. So we're going to stop operation. What happens to your business then? Right? You're not going to be able to bring in your engineers or your FSCs. Market volatility, oil price changes, right? Oil price currently, what is it? At some point it went down to 40, at some point much earlier when it went down to $18, and at some point $120. How does your business change with all this volatility? Competition, there are always new players and maybe old and established players, right? Mergers could happen. Local content could change it, right? Local content will allow other companies to come in. How do you navigate the dynamics of your business so that you are not impacted, that your employees are not impacted? Okay, supply chain. It's interesting. I'm dealing with a supplier right now, and we have to deliver some spares to a customer. And guess what? This supplier has been working with us for years. And all of a sudden, the supplier has filed for Chapter 11, which basically means that they've gone bankrupt. So now we are there thinking about how do we find these spares. We've been dealing with this supplier for years, and they've just gone bankrupt. How do we deal with that? Right? Very difficult. Disruptors, technological and innovation adoption. What do we do there? Right? Environmental and social concerns. Different things happening. In the US, there is a mindset around fracking. Okay. They say when you're fracking, it's going to the water aquifer and whatnot, but it's essential that we explain the solutions and what our activities will do in the social setting. There's also a lot around project finance. There are certain customers who are also asking for service companies and others to also help finance, be a partner in some of these projects. How does that work? What do you need to look at? Cybersecurity threats. These are things that happen. There are global economic trends, shifts that are happening. You talk about EV vehicles that are, people are now going in for EV vehicles rather than internal combustion engines. So less oil and gas, less demand. How does that change your business? Also, I spoke about foreign assets control, which is trade compliance. You have Russia and trade bans. How do you deal with them from a business development perspective? If you have a customer that has a trade ban for, let's say, Russia and others that your companies cannot do straightforward business with. So these are some of the challenges that we face on a daily basis, and it changes every single day. So we should not be surprised about change. We should be very abreast. We need to be like a sponge and take in a lot of information and understand how you can process it. So the one thing I can assure you is that with business development, there is never, ever a dull moment. So it's a very interesting field to get in. It's a very interesting function. The prospects are good, typically, and you understand the entire business chain, the entire business value chain, from how it works to financing to legal to everything that is behind it. So for those who have the mindset or the interest and who are inquisitive and curious, it's something that's worth considering. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watson. This has been an incredible study today. You said it wasn't going to be a business 101, but I think it's even surpasses business 101. Yes, and it's a really great presentation. The visuals, you were very audible, you were clear. It's such a great one and a great start for SPE Ghana section YP committee as well. So at this moment, I would want us to zoom directly into the question and answer sections. If you have any question or any input, if you need any clarification, do show your hands or you can drop it in the comment section. And we can appreciate our presenter by showing some reactions in the chat section. So drop any favorite emoji, anything to show how insightful this presentation has been to you. I want to see it flowing in the comment section. This has been great. I don't expect it to be so silent in the comment section. So yes, if you're ready with a question also, do raise your hand and you can also drop it in the comment section. It will be read. While waiting for questions from the audience, I have mine. So I think I'll begin. Mr. John, you spoke about being curious, and if you want to move into the business section, I want to ask, how can you be curious without being seen as worrisome or like nosy or troublesome? You see, in the African section, sometimes if you tend to ask so many questions, the next thing you might not be welcomed anymore. So I don't know how it is in the typical working area, but then how can you be curious but then still be professionally curious? Let me put it that way.
So the one thing is about value. Value is a big thing. So if you are starting an engagement with a customer, you must do even your homework before you even go and have a conversation with them. It's with even with everybody that you're dealing with, even your internal workplace, right? Everybody has a need. So do you. You know what is important to you. You know what is important to them. Once there is that shared valued interest, okay, you will not be seen as unprofessional, or you'll not be seen as what do you term it? Inquisitive, too known, or the way as we will call it, or prying, right? Understand the person you're going to deal with, do your homework, know the value that you're bringing to them. And in the end, they'll realize that the conversations that you're bringing to the table, they're going to get something out of it. They will pay attention. Look, I faced a situation where a customer actually told me, you are worrying me, you are bothering me, right? And it's not new. When it happened, I had to take a step back and understand that, okay, what I am trying to do in getting this customer's attention, it's not working, right? If you're not getting the feedback that you need, then it's not working. You have to change your approach. And the way I change my approach is not everybody will like you. Understand that. Not everybody will like you, but it doesn't mean you cannot do your job. Okay. Always speak to the value you're bringing to the table because they have their own interests. Yeah. Okay. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it really does. And from the comment section, I can see we had a very great presentation, because I see great presentation, great presentation, great presentation, and it's been power packed. So to the second question, I want to understand some personal challenges you had, especially for the first time. You said for the first time you went into the business role. I want to understand some challenges and how you were able to manage them. And if you can highlight on how you were able to deal with the time you were even forced to take certain roles, because some of us, I think we believe in the comfortable zone and I don't want to do it. Why are you forcing me? But sometimes those lead us into great opportunities. So how we can embrace those um times as well. So from your personal experience.
Okay, so let me touch on the trajectory of my career, though I see it as a bit short as well. As any opportunity that is put before you, seize the opportunity. Understand if it's a learning moment, right? Take it into stock. I was pushed into that sales role, that sales manager role. However, I did have some experience somewhat to an extent. Sometimes you'll be pushed in and you'd have to learn to swim. Consider it as a learning moment. If I hadn't have taken on some of these positions, I wouldn't have had the learning opportunity to understand how the business actually functions the way I do. And note, you're a young professional now, but whilst you go up in your career, you may be doing less of technical work and you would be looking potentially into how the business is managed. So there are certain aspects of things that you will not be taught. If you are lucky to have some sort of skills training, that is good, but you have to be learning a lot of things on the job. So embrace change, embrace the opportunity, because that's the only opportunity that you actually have to grow. I hope that
Okay.
answered the question. Unless
Yes,
you
it
have,
really
unless
does.
I
So
missed.
I will take a question from um Ahitopel Kojodamfo. I'm sorry if I couldn't pronounce your name well, but you have the opportunity now. You can ask your question.
Yeah, Mr. Swatson. I think my
Well,
question, you somehow touched on it during the middle of your presentation, but I still want to ask. Um, one of the field in which oil and gas is mainly consumed is the vehicle sector, and we know companies like Tesla is now into the production of electric cars and stuff. So looking or taking this into critical analysis, you could say 5 years to come, companies such as Toyota, Ford, and other car company will also be compelled to produce electric cars in order to beat the competition. Now, here lies the case that maybe as a student who is aspiring to become an oil and gas engineer, whereby in the next 20 years to come, people are now tuning into electric cars, which will render oil and gas, should I say, will lower the rate at which we need oil and gas. So does that mean that going in for petroleum engineer will be a waste of time, so to speak? I don't know if you are trying to get my question or something like that. Yeah.
No, I understand your question fully, and I'm sure my colleagues who are here in SPE have had to deal with this question, and I've had to answer the question and understand it and try to dissect it in various ways. Now, it's an interesting one because there is a current conversation around energy transition and how companies are ensuring that they are not necessarily impacted by the transition. It also has to do with with yourselves as students. Oil and gas is still very relevant in our day-to-day activities, in a lot of our manufacturing facilities, in all of our process plants, in a lot of industries. Oil and gas still remains a relevant part. Now, yes, we are talking about EV, but remember, if you take a few steps back, a few years back, you had coal being a fuel. And now, yes, there are still a lot of coal-fired plants in Germany. Not saying that it is the best or it's not. It's not a question of which is good and which is not. It's a question of the trajectory. If you have seen that there are a lot of EV vehicles coming up, batteries are going to be the main thing that are being looked at. It doesn't necessarily mean that oil and gas is not going to be relevant. If you look at what everybody has been talking about in the mainstay, there was a lot of conversation that, okay, put our oil and gas down, let's not go and let's go at electricity, but you cannot have that alone. Take into consideration the number of vehicles that you have. Take into account trains, take into account aviation. When you look at the planes that you have, how many of the planes that you have that are electric powered, right? You do have clean fuels, yes. But you need to take that into account. Gas plants, you have gas-fired and liquid fuel plants. So take that outside, just not the vehicles. There are a lot of different sectors that would still require oil and gas, and it's still going to remain relevant for years from now. Gas is one key thing. And when we're talking about hydrocarbons, we're talking about gas. Gas is always seen as a transition fuel. If you look at the statistics, the number of gas, the gas demand has significantly grown. In Africa alone, the exploration activity that we're currently looking at in terms of investments is around $6 billion. It's increased. It's now purported that next year, we actually will be back to pre-COVID levels. Remember, the whole conversation about energy transition and everything else started just around the same time as COVID. So if you're having investments in 2025 in Africa, going back to pre-COVID levels, that alone is a signal. Now, note, out of that amount, 45% of most of the investments that is done in Africa, 45% of that, those exploration activities happen in West Africa, right? And a significant amount of those exploration activities are into gas. So if you actually look at the trend of investment, if you look at the trend of where things are going and the projects that are being sanctioned, it is actually not showing a decline. It's actually showing that the gas demand is actually going up. And if we are not careful, actually, we are not going to meet the supply. So there's a study by Rystad, I think it was a few months ago, was the CEO of Rystad, and I'm trying to remember the statistics there. But there's now going to be a deficit against the demand and supply of gas globally. And Europe is even going to suffer the most out of it, obviously because of what we know, the geopolitics and everything happening. So you are looking at only one aspect of it in terms of the EV vehicles. However, you need to remember that even in the manufacture of some of those cars, you still need a petrochemical industry. Okay, so when I look at the entire value chain, power, paint, all of that, it still remains very relevant. Gas also as a fuel is still very relevant.
Thank you very much. And I believe the question has been answered. So, Buhari, if you're still online, you have the platform to speak and ask your question now.
Good afternoon, everyone. And good afternoon to Mr. Swatson. I think you did a wonderful presentation. Yeah, so my question, I have two questions. First, with the emergence of AI and the talk about AI taking up quite a number of jobs, in the distant future, do you see business development roles being taken up by AI tools? And also, in the West African market, how do you see the gas market? What are the prospects and what are the challenges? And where can Ghana position ourselves? I know with the power side, because we are relatively stable, we supply to the power pool, we have quite a prospect there. So how do you see Ghana as a country, strategically in the West African gas market? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very good questions. So your question was around, the first one was around AI and it taking up the jobs of BD. Well, AI still has a ways to go. It's very welcome and the great things that we're doing with AI. I was having a conversation with someone a few years ago, and it was more so around production engineers. I don't need to scare any production engineer here, but I remember in my university in Norway, there was a PhD student, I think, who had come out who had developed a software. And that software basically was able to, I think they sold it to Saudi Aramco, where they were able to have some production algorithms to help in basically the process, what kind of parameters will give you the best in terms of yield, whatnot. And the beautiful thing about AI is, yes, we are saying that, okay, it may take up some jobs, but then again, too, it's also going to create jobs. So there's going to be a shift. It's more so left pocket, right pocket. In terms of BD and AI, at the moment, you even have AI tools that are even helping you do your legal work. So we're not saying that anywhere is safe. In terms of roles, nothing is safe. Nothing is ever certain. Things will change. But I think what we need to pay more attention to is how we adapt to that change. Okay, how we adapt to that change. There are certain things that we really would still need that human interaction. You would need to develop that AI software in any case. BD is very front customer facing. There are certain things around emotions that even get into how you sell things, how you even are open to the person who is speaking to you, how you perceive persons, how genuine they are in what they're trying to sell out to you, and how honest they are. So there are certain interactions that you cannot take away that human aspect. Okay, AI would actually complement the BD's job, because even right now, the customer relationship management tools I'm using have AI functionalities to better help me manage the customers. So we should be seen more so as an opportunity to help complement our work rather than it taking out necessarily our jobs. Okay, I hope that answers the first question. Then the second question around our gas market. And I think you know from the question that you asked, I think you know as much as anybody else the way it works. Gas is a significant enabler for us in Ghana. We cannot understate the importance of being able to develop our gas resources here in Ghana. Firstly, why? If you look at the energy mix, right? Previously, a lot of hydro. Right now, what's happening? A lot of what we have is through our gas-fired plants, right? A huge percentage of, I think it's around 70% or so, is through our plants. So we cannot take away the fact that gas is so important, and we need to be able to position ourselves such that we are playing well in that market for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's cleaner. Okay. And I forgot to add up that point. Whilst we're looking at oil and gas, obviously we need to pay careful attention to our environment. Okay. Gas is a good transition fuel. It is cleaner. It helps. It helps in our carbon emissions. The second part of it is we need to understand the way the market works around gas. Gas markets are complicated. You need to have certain kind of facilities in place for processing FLNG, FPSO, all of that. Are you going to have FLNGs in place for transportation? It's important that we understand how this is structured in terms of gas developments, because it is costly. What we need to understand is that we need to take advantage of the current demand for gas. Because guess what? A few years ago, it was not there. A few years to come, that demand may change. So we need to take advantage of the current gas market, be it within the region or outside. Now, why am I saying that? Currently, you are not, is Ghana Gas, I'm not talking about the company, I'm talking about Ghana's gas, being able to compete with currently what is happening in Nigeria. I've been able to develop their assets in Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon, wanting to develop their gas finds as well. In what is happening in Mozambique, right, where you're going to have Rovuma being sanctioned with huge gas finds. And the idea of Mozambique gas is that it's supposed to serve Italy for 10 years in terms of its gas demand. So in being able to, first of all, meet your domestic gas demand, you also need to be able to think about the international gas demand, because you're competing with all these other gas deposits in other countries. So it's a competition. We need to be able to place ourselves such that we're able to be one of the key players and be a net exporter. Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Hello,
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I think we can proceed. And I have a question in the chat box. Dixon says, I would like Mr. Swetson to throw more light on the skill walk into the unknown. I'm a little puzzled. So, Mr. John, if
Sorry,
you can highlight more of that. So the skill says walk into the unknown, and Dixon would want you to throw more light on that. He's a little bit puzzled.
Okay, so you're walking into the unknown. Sometimes you're going to pay a visit to a customer. You don't know what you're going to talk about. You don't know what they're going to throw at you. Okay, so for example, you get in there and then they have a problem. You've just walked into an issue. All right, at the moment, I am looking for a quick solution, and I gave you an example of the terminator. I do not have the funds to be able to meet it. I do not have the funds to be able to do my decommission or my abandonment jobs. And being pushed by the regulator to do abandonment now because they want to be able to meet the targets that, okay, all the wells that are not working have been decommissioned. What do you do? How are you able to quickly respond? You do not have contracts. Now, just to give you some context, if you're talking to a customer and you're talking about a deal, when you start talking about contracts, typically these contracts don't take you 1 week or 2 weeks. There are contracts that we've been discussing legal terms for 6 months, right? 6 months. So you're there, the guy wants a solution today, he wants a solution, in fact, this month, and you don't have a contract in place. How do you deal with things like that? So there's so many unknowns that you'd have to deal with. First of all, his needs. Secondly, your capabilities of meeting that need and making sure that you find that fine line. So you go in there, you're more so just trying to explore opportunities, take that information, take it back with you, process it, and then come up with a solution. So you should be understand that when you're going to such conversations, you're not going to have all the answers. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I believe it does. And Dixon, I hope you are okay with that. Okay. So moving on to the next question, I have a question from Emmanuel Kofi Okraku. It says in the presentation he didn't see anything on fake news and spread of misinformation. So his question is, considering the challenges posed by misinformation in sensitive sectors like the oil and gas, what strategies can businesses in the oil and gas industry adapt to counteract the effects of fake news and misinformation on their operations and business development?
I'm trying to look for the question because you're breaking up there.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So the question is,
Much better.
considering the challenges posed by misinformation in sensitive sectors like the oil and gas, what strategies can businesses in the industry adapt to counteract the effects of fake news and misinformation on their operations and business development? Was that clear?
No, that's clear. That's clear. So, look, misinformation, it impacts your business greatly. So the way we operate, if you're especially a company that is listed, you have shareholders. So today you can Google it. There's a share price of Tullow. There's a share price of ENI. There's a share price of Baker Hughes, etc. And information that gets out based on misinformation can drastically impact the share price and the shareholders. Now, that's a key driver in the health of a business. And the only way we can kind of interact that out is, and that's why you have IT, you have security, you have cyber security around some of this information that is let out. So it's important that firstly, you as employees of the companies, as young professionals, are very careful in what you are putting out there. There's information that is actually intellectual property, which should not be let out there. There is also information from the operators and what they are also putting out there, which also they need to follow the proper guidelines of the regulator. So for example, if you have an operator here that intends to share information, that information, they must also be guided by certain national regulations as to how this comes out, right? So regulation is one bit, standards and your operations and procedures of being able to put that out there, and even your kind of clauses that you sign, right, as employees. So that's the way you'd manage that kind of information. Fake news is something that would always come out to an extent. You may not be able to control all of it, but in the end, it's being able to counteract it and making sure that some of this is reversed. So in most companies, you actually will have cyber security departments in most companies that are ensuring that their information is retained, there are no threats to them, and also their IP and whatever information that needs to remain confidential is kept confidential. Is that okay? Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much for the answer. And it's been an insightful one, honestly, I must say. And I believe we can continue all day, but we also have to, cut things short and then proceed with the other. So I'm sorry, but I wouldn't be able to take any further questions. But you can always reach out to Mr. John on LinkedIn. He's John Swatson. You could connect with him, and I believe if there's any further questions, you can ask him directly, and you'll be answered. So someone was asking if there's any volunteering opportunities with Baker Hughes. I think you can also continue that conversation on LinkedIn, and perhaps you could also check their website to see. So thank you so much, Mr. John, for the time and for the insight. As I said earlier, it was, I believe, more than business 101 for me. It's been insightful. So at this moment, we'll just have a quick game session to get ourselves abreast with SPE, and then we could take a few announcements and we'll call it a day. So for the first question.
Thank you very much.
Okay, please, Mr. Johnson, if you want to say anything, you can.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity again, SP. And it was a pleasure having you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Wonderful audience.